While the United States was fighting wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, it was fighting another internal war, a war against drugs, human trafficking, and prostitution. Here is where our movie begins with Nikki, a U.S. Army combat veteran and an expert in the killing fields. Although she is a tough fighter who easily takes lives, she is a failed mother who struggles to raise her daughter. She tells us how much she suffers because of her job and being away from her daughter, Chloe. She always used to call her on her birthday, even while she was on the front line. She always promised her she would be by her side next year, but next year never came. Years passed, and unfortunately, the relationship between Nikki and her daughter Chloe deteriorated. Chloe became a teenager and no longer needed her mother. Sometimes she wouldn't even answer her calls. That is why Nikki decided to retire from the army, so she could spend the rest of her life with her daughter. On Chloe's birthday, Nikki throws a big party for her and her friends. However, Chloe is not interested in all of this effort. She decides to leave the house and go out with her friends. When the mother refuses, Chloe tells her, "I'm not a little kid anymore." Then she blames her for the years she wasted away from her, telling her that coming back now won't fix anything. At night, Nikki tries to make peace with her daughter, but she is surprised to find that she is not in her room. She finds a note written by Chloe saying she will spend the day with her friend. At that moment, Chloe is at a bar having her first drink. She is with her friends and trying to flirt with handsome men, but her mother is one of the toughest fighters in the U.S. Army. She manages to track her location and heads straight to the bar. However, she doesn't arrive in time to prevent the disaster. The guy Chloe was talking to slipped a strange substance into her drink, and as soon as the mother arrives, he has already kidnapped Chloe. Nikki sees them exiting through the back door. One of the kidnappers tries to shoot her, but she easily eliminates him due to her advanced combat skills. Unfortunately, she cannot stop the car from escaping. But out of the darkness, Nikki appears again and clings to the car window. She tries to stop the driver, but he makes a sharp turn to throw her to the ground. However, she does not give up. She keeps chasing them, studying the road to choose the perfect alley to cut them off. And indeed, they are shocked when she jumps onto the car from a building window. She uses her key to kill the driver, causing the car to swerve and crash. The young man who kidnapped Chloe is named Ben. He takes advantage of Nikki falling to the ground, pushes the driver aside, and drives away. Nikki is left lying on the road, heavily injured from the crash. Here we learn an important piece of information. According to statistics, kidnapped youth have only 72 hours before they die. Hours later, Nikki wakes up to find herself hanging upside down by her feet in an abandoned warehouse. But this scene is actually a flash forward. The man holding her captive tells her that freeing the girls and burning Mr. Sullivan's warehouse was a mistake. This man is called the Butcher. He has captured many people like her, but they are all dead. The Butcher begins to mock Nikki, cutting her stomach with a knife. He is so fearless that he leaves the knife near her while answering a phone call. However, Nikki manages to free herself using the knife and engages in a fight with the Butcher. Despite his arrogance, she easily eliminates him, finally asking, "Who's laughing now?" Nikki begins to torture him to confess her daughter's location. When he refuses, she cuts off his ear. A short while later, strange cars arrive at the location, but Nikki has already left. Nikki is now at war with a massive human trafficking syndicate. Their manager is Sullivan, and their supreme boss is unknown. Sullivan enters the warehouse and sees a message from Nikki demanding her daughter back. At that moment, he realizes he is not dealing with just an angry mother, but a fierce monster who could wipe them all out. Sullivan orders his men to get rid of Nikki before the boss finds out, because he does not tolerate failure. Nikki is monitoring everything. As soon as Sullivan and his men leave, she tails them. She wants to eliminate them all, but she realizes how difficult it will be. The gang is heavily armed, large in number, and well organized. Therefore, she decides to track them until they reach their headquarters to plan her mission. However, the headquarters looks like a military camp. Heavy security, cameras everywhere, and guard dogs. Due to her severe injuries, she decides to go treat herself before launching the attack. Meanwhile, we see Detective Jin Woo and Detective John Blake monitoring the gang's headquarters. However, they are not as interested in the gang as they are in the mysterious masked person who broke in and freed 5 girls and then burned down the building. We cut back to Nikki. She books a hotel room to shower, clean her wounds, and prepare herself to take on the gang. During this time, Detective John discovers that the masked person, before burning Sullivan's building, was at the bar. They attack Ben and beat him severely. The police discover that the masked person is targeting the organization. Afterward, they discover the body of the driver that Nikki stabbed with her car keys. They realize that Nikki owns the key and might be the one who killed him. Because of this, he orders them to pull her full file to find out who she is. While all of this is happening, Nikki buys the necessary gear that will help her storm Sullivan's headquarters. Sullivan calls the boss, who is furious about their club burning down. He tells him it was generating a lot of revenue and that they are falling behind schedule. The boss begins to reprimand Sullivan. He informs him that a new shipment is arriving and he must handle it well, or he will find someone to replace him. The next morning, Sullivan moves out with his gang for a new mission. However, Nikki has been waiting for this moment since the beginning of the movie. She drives her car at full speed and rams into one of their vehicles. Nikki has set a trap for the rest of the cars to stop them. Then she attacks them and kills them one by one. Sullivan tries to escape, but she hits him in the face with a skateboard. She tells him he has one chance to answer her question. When he tries to stall, she shoots him in the knee. At that point, Sullivan decides to confess. He tells her that he does not make the decisions and does not know where her daughter is. Then he confesses the location of the boss, who is in a downtown hotel. Despite this, she decides to kill him in the end. Nikki opens the car trunk hoping to find a new weapon to use, but she finds something even better than a weapon: her daughter, Chloe. Finally, Nikki reunites with her daughter Chloe and takes the bus to go back home. On the way, she remembers moments from her past life in the military. She talks about how there is a hair's breadth between life and death. Sometimes she would be on a happy mission with her friends in the army, but suddenly a sniper would appear, or a bomb would explode and kill her friends. Then we transition to another memory, when she and her daughter were beside her husband in the hospital. Unfortunately, her husband died of leukemia. Ever since then, her relationship with her daughter deteriorated. Nikki and Chloe return home. Nikki tries to talk to her daughter, but she is still under the influence of shock and drugs. When she sees the signs of assault and injuries, she begins to cry uncontrollably. On the other hand, we see the lead detective, Michael, ordering the special forces to launch the attack, and we discover that this attack is targeted at Nikki's house. But before the orders are carried out, a U.S. Army commander arrives and demands that he cancel the orders. He tells him that it is disrespectful to attack a national hero. This person is Colonel Joseph. He demands that Michael call off the mission and withdraw his men immediately. When Michael objects, Joseph reveals orders from a very high-ranking government official, stripping him of his authority over the case. Nikki leaves the house and heads to the pharmacy to buy medicine to treat her daughter. However, at that moment, Michael defies orders and contacts the special forces. He tells them to turn off their body cams, go back in, execute the mission, and kill Nikki. But Nikki is not an easy target at all. She notices the presence of the special forces in the area. Therefore, she sets a small trap and eliminates them all. Afterwards, she turns their cameras back on and speaks directly to Michael. She mockingly tells him to send ambulances to pick up his men. Joseph contacts Nikki, asking her to stop what she is doing. However, she reveals that the gang kidnapped her daughter and that she must get her revenge. Nikki rushes back home, but she is shocked to find that her daughter is gone once again. The moment she enters the room, Detective Jin attacks her, but she skillfully overpowers him. Nikki realizes that the supreme boss is the one who kidnapped her daughter again. This time, it is clearly about revenge, not just a human trafficking deal. Because of this, she moves quickly to save her. Strangely, Michael sends all of his men to eliminate Nikki, completely ignoring the gang. At that point, Joseph grows suspicious. He contacts the National Security Agency to investigate Michael and his recent bank transactions, only to discover that Michael has been receiving bribes from the gang leader to assist him in his crimes. Knowing he is about to be arrested, Michael becomes furious. In a moment of impulse, he attacks Joseph, but the old colonel still enjoys great physical fitness and easily takes him down. Nikki arrives at the downtown hotel, which serves as the gang's operations headquarters. She walks in through the front door, paying no attention to the cameras or the number of guards. She starts firing at the gang members, killing them one by one. Afterwards, she frees a group of girls before continuing on her way to the gang boss. Before carrying out her final mission, she blows up the entire place to disable the security cameras. Since the whole building is now plunged into darkness, the hunt is on. She shoots the first group of criminals. Then she takes out another group using kitchen knives. When she reaches the top floor, she is surprised to find a large number of teenage girls, and she frees them all. She then heads to the last group of gang members and opens fire, turning the lobby into a bloodbath. Unfortunately, she runs out of ammo. She is forced into hand-to-hand combat with two gang members, but she defeats them with difficulty. Sadly, Nikki collapses from sheer exhaustion. She has a vision of her daughter asking her to stop everything because she doesn't need to keep fighting. However, she refuses to give up and promises her she will save her. Fueled by her vision of her daughter, she gathers her strength to finish the mission. Only the gang boss and his personal bodyguard are left. The bodyguard is a Japanese martial artist named Kurita. He is an extremely strong fighter and a martial arts expert, but to Nikki, he was just a puppet. Finally, she reaches the boss, who is holding her daughter and threatening her with a gun. But Nikki's shot is precise. She eliminates the gang boss with a single bullet and saves her daughter. All of this happens just 15 seconds before the 72-hour deadline runs out. Chloe is rushed to the hospital in critical condition due to the effects of the drugs. At this moment, Nikki cannot help her, but the doctors can. Chloe's condition stabilizes, and she returns to her mother's arms. But actually, let me shock you. We go back in time a little bit. Right after Joseph eliminates Michael, the agents ask him, why didn't the gang return Chloe to her mother after losing so many of their members? At that moment, Joseph surprises everyone. He tells them, because Nikki actually found her daughter a week ago, but as a corpse. Chloe died, and Nikki was taken to the hospital due to her breakdown. And when she woke up, her mind didn't wake up with her. She refused to believe her daughter's death, and that is why she went back for revenge in the hope of saving her daughter. And this explains the 44-minute jump in events, because during that time, Nikki found her daughter's body, and ever since then, she has been seeing her face in every single girl. Sorry, my friend, if I shocked you, but here our movie ends.